early look at the new nonprofit journalism project, the Greater Boston News Bureau. On social media, former Bay State Banner senior editor Yawu Miller announced that initiative, which he's going to be heading up along with Claudio Martinez, the executive director of the nonprofit Vida Scholars. And Yawu, a friend of Talking Politics, joins me now for more. Yawu, thanks for being here, and congrats on this new endeavor. So,
thanks, Adam.
What is the Greater Boston News Bureau going to be, and how is it going to work exactly?
So we're going to have a website. We're going to produce articles that will be reprinted in newspapers. Anybody can reprint. We're targeting ethnic news media, such as the Bay State Banner, where I worked for more than 10 years, and El Mundo, just anybody who wants our content. We're going to translate it into Spanish. We have a contractor who can translate our articles into Haitian Creole. And so articles will appear in print in other publications. We will just exist as a website.
A couple questions about that. First off, these other outlets that pick up your content, they're not going to be paying for it.
No, they're not.
So as far as I am not an entrepreneurially minded person, but how is that going to work economically? How do you make something like this, self-sufficient, something that will be able to last for years, if you're creating content which costs money to produce and then giving it away for free?
Well, there's a national movement toward nonprofit news, and typically what happens is you get money up front from foundations that sort of stake you for the first few years. The way foundations work is their contributions will tend to decline, and as that happens, you're expected to come up with more local funding. So some of that comes from your, subscription base. Now, subscription doesn't mean that somebody needs to subscribe to you to read your content. It just means they support what you're doing, much like the way viewers such as myself support WGBH.
Viewers like you, thank you very much.
And then some of it can come from sponsorships from local businesses. Some of it can come from advertising. So as we get more readership over the course of a few years, then our earned revenue, so locally generated revenue, will increase, and that will take up the slack.
I should mention, since you talked about donors seeding projects like this early on to get them going, you were, I think, or you and Claudio are one of 4 grantees, I believe, who are getting funding and training through the American News Project's Local News Incubator.
Right, American Journalism Project, local news incubator, yeah.
And tell me a little more about that project. When I was looking at the benefactors there, I think Google News is part of it. There's a whole bunch of big national names, right?
Right, absolutely. So, a lot of large funders are looking at the news landscape and understanding that there are news deserts and there are unmet needs. And also the local news landscape across the United States is struggling in different ways. And so we're part of the first cohort, along with 3 other organizations that are in various stages of starting up. And we get technical assistance, advice, and funding that's sustaining us as we're building this organization for the first year and a half.
And I should mention to people, I don't think I'm giving anything an appropriate way here. You've been working on this for a while. I mean, I've had conversations with you when you've come in to talk about local political topics. And we've talked a little bit about this as it was in its infancy, then moving forward. This has been a long road, right?
We've sort of been kicking around the idea for a couple of years, and it was just an idea until and then we applied for this funding from the American Journalism Project, and we were one of 219 applicants. So when we made the final cut, we were pleasantly surprised, and just really happy to move forward.
You and I were texting about this convo before you came in to discuss the project, and you suggested that, among other things, we talk about the different news needs of Black and Latino audiences. Can you elaborate on that? What are the different news needs that Black and Latino audiences have?
Yeah, certainly. First of all, for Latino readers, many people still just would prefer to read their news in Spanish. So that's why we're dedicated to translating everything into Spanish. Also, same might go for Haitian Creole and Cape Verdean Creole. That there are more than 70,000 Cape Verdeans in Massachusetts, more than 80,000 Haitian people in Massachusetts. So we want to reach people in those ways, but also that people of color not just in Boston but across the country have often felt like their perspectives aren't always understood or seen or replicated in mainstream media, so that when I've worked for the Banner, what I have done is writing about any issue, talk to Black people, talk to Latino people about how those issues might affect our communities differently than they affect the broader state community, and then also there are a lot of stories, particularly in the Haitian American community and the Cape Verdean American community, that don't get reported. And, at the Banner, we've followed a lot of, when I worked at the Banner, we followed a lot of those stories. For instance, people who were standardizing the Cape Verdean Creole language. I mean, this goes back years. And, that we've done a couple of articles about the gentleman who lives in Dorchester, who's created the first Cape Verdean English dictionary, the first English Cape Verdean dictionary.
I think I remember reading one of those, yeah.
So, we've kind of, see the stories that aren't getting reported, but also try to reach people in ways that they'll consume news in ways that they're comfortable consuming news, in ways that they feel seen, that their perspectives are understood.
And how are you going to do this in a way that caters not just to people who are existing news consumers, who are maybe your age and my age and are used to picking up a newspaper, an actual physical newspaper, or looking online for one, but as you know better than me, a lot of younger news consumers don't get their news the way that we do. So how are you going to get content to them and make sure that they're engaging with the stuff you create?
Right. We've done several community listening sessions, and what we're finding is that among a lot of younger people, they're getting their news on TikTok, they're getting their news on social media. It shouldn't come as a surprise to people of our generation that younger folks are doing that, because we've heard about that. But, sort of talking to young people about that, we understand that, writing is going to be our main focus, our bread and butter. But our stories absolutely have to get out in other formats. That means, audio. It means video. If we want to reach young people, and we really do, because we want young people to feel connected to their communities. We want them to feel connected to the civic life in Boston. We want them to vote and understand who's on the ballot. And the best way to do that is to reach them where they're at on social media. Hopefully, some of them will click on the stories and go for a deeper dive. But even if not, we know that the best way to reach them is with audio and video. So.
A lot of news outlets here, and I think across the country, traditional news outlets are trying to broaden their coverage in a way that they're serving communities that they might not have served before. WGBH, I think, fits that bill, the Boston Globe, other outlets around here. Have you run into anyone from established news outlets reacting a little bit defensively to this new project that you're going to be moving ahead with? Like, oh, well, we're already trying to do that. You're cutting it on our territory or something like that?
No, I mean, I think there's a growing recognition that there's just not enough. The Globe a few years back said we're no longer the paper of record for the city of Boston.
That's right.
In the 1990s, when I understood the resources I had to cover the Black community at the Bay State Banner, I understood we couldn't be the paper of record for the Black community, that, we had to sort of pick and choose the stories we do. Mm-hmm. And, what are we good at? What are we going to focus on? What are our core competencies? I think every news outlet is doing that. There's always more room. I mean, I certainly felt that at the Bay State Banner when I saw the Globe or the Dorchester Reporter pick up an article that, I didn't get to. Thank God somebody wrote about that. So I think that that in this news environment, it's more about, just getting everything covered as much as we all can, and we don't have to tread on each other's toes or muscle each other out. You know, I mean, there's competition for sure, but it's also, I mean, I think people are generally happy to see more news outlets than fewer.
Final question for you. How soon are we going to see actual articles or audio pieces or video pieces created by the Greater Boston News Bureau? When's that going to start happening?
We're in the early stages, and a lot of it depends on you know, how much funding we're able to get and how soon. But we hope to start, you know, to launch a website by the end of the year.
Oh, okay. That's soon. All right. I was thinking it might be longer. Look forward to seeing it. Yawu Miller, always good to talk to you, and congratulations.
Thanks, Adam.